Hi students, today we'll be discussing a poem You Laughed and Laughed and Laughed by the Nigerian poet Gabriel Okara. Now first let us have a look at the poet Gabriel Okara. His official name is Gabriel Imomotomi Okara, born in 1921 and died in 2019. He was a contemporary Nigerian poet and novelist. His birthplace is in Bumondi, Nigeria. Okara is called the first modernist poet of Anglophone Africa. He captures the moods, sights, and sounds of Africa. And in his works, you see a concern regarding what happens when the ancient culture of Africa is faced with the modern Western culture. His works reflect the problems that African nations face as they are torn between the culture of their European colonizers and their traditional African heritage. And in his works, we see that he talks about the traumatic effect that colonization has brought on the African man or the African individual and his sense of personal identity. And we see that he depicts the characters suffering from the cultural shock as they are torn between these two cultures, the European culture which colonized them and the original culture, the African culture. So these individuals, the characters in his works, suffer from that cultural shock uh, because they feel that they are torn between these two irreconcilable cultures. And in order to explain that, he uses folklore, myth, social issues, religion. He takes clues from all these areas, that is, everything pertaining to Africa or to Nigeria. You can find a complete image, a complete picture of the social, cultural, political, religious aspects of Nigeria. And that is why he's called as the Nigerian negritudist. And then moving on to his literary output, we see that his first poem was called The Call of the River Nun. That poem was written in 1950 and it was one of his most celebrated poem and it attained him world recognition. And then he has published several collections of works, and many of his works were published in the Nigerian literary journal called Black Orpheus. Some of his important poetry collections include The Fisherman's Invocation, then The Dreamer, His Vision, then Little Snake and Little Frog, An Adventure to Juju Island. The last two, Little Snake and Little Frog and An Adventure to Juju Island, those are collections intended for children. Then he has written an experimental novel called The Voice, published in 1964. It is about post-independence Nigeria. And in this novel, he talks about the clash of cultures, the clash of the traditional African culture and the Western European materialistic culture. And because of the immense popularity of Okara's works, they have been translated into several languages, including English. Then, apart from his literary career, he has also served as information officer for the Eastern Nigerian Government Service. And also during the Nigerian Civil War, he was the information officer at Biafra. He died in the year 2019, very recently. So that is a bit of a biography of the poet Gabriel Okara. Now over to the poem You Laughed and Laughed and Laughed by Gabriel Okara. In your ears, my song is motorcar misfiring, stopping with a choking cough, and you laughed and laughed and laughed. In your eyes, my antenatal walk was inhuman, passing your omnivorous understanding, and you laughed and laughed and laughed. You laughed at my song, you laughed at my walk. Then I danced my magic dance to the rhythm of talking drums pleading, but you shut your eyes and laughed and laughed and laughed. And then I opened my mystic inside, wide like the sky. Instead, you entered your car and laughed and laughed and laughed. You laughed at my dance, you laughed at my inside, you laughed and laughed and laughed. But your laughter was ice block laughter, and it froze your inside, froze your voice, froze your ears, froze your eyes, and froze your tongue. And now it's my turn to laugh, but my laughter is not ice block laughter, for I know not cars, know not ice blocks. My laughter is the fire of the eye of the sky, the fire of the earth, the fire of the air, the fire of the seas, and the rivers, fishes, animals, trees, and it thawed your inside, thawed your voice, thawed your ears, thawed your eyes, and thawed your tongue. So a meek wonder held your shadow, and you whispered, Why so? And I answered, Because my fathers and I are owned by the living warmth of the earth through our naked feet. Now, this poem consists of 10 stanzas, and through this poem, we see an interaction that takes place between a white colonialist and an African native. It represents the white man's mockery, the white man's scorn and contempt towards the black individual, towards the black race as a whole. And in this context, it would be significant to note an observation made by the leading novelist of Africa. He's not only a novelist, poet, essayist, a cultural philosopher. His name is Chinua Achebe. So, Chinua Achebe had once, in his essay called Colonialist Criticism, he had very vehemently mentioned the inability of the European colonialist critics to understand and appreciate African culture and literature. Similarly, in this poem also, we see the white man's inability to appreciate the black man's culture. And the black man, the African, he feels humiliated. He suffers that pain, that injustice, that prejudice that the white man always shows to him as well as to his culture. So you find racism as a very important theme in this poem. Now let's look at this poem in a very close way. You laughed and laughed and laughed. In your ears, my song is motorcar misfiring, stopping with a choking cough, and you laughed and laughed and laughed. So the you here refers to the white man or the white people in general. The white people are making fun of the culture, of the arts, of the dance, of their skin color, of everything related to the black people. So he says, in your ears, that means in your white ears, in the white man's ears, My song, that is the song of my people, the black people, is like motor car misfiring. When I sing, or when the people of my community sing, you feel that it is some harsh voice of an engine failing to start, or a car failing to start. So the black man's song is considered as something very awkward. And you have always laughed at that. You have laughed at my talents, at my skills, at my singing abilities, at my creativity. In your eyes, my antenatal walk was inhuman, passing your omnivorous understanding, and you laughed and laughed and laughed. And even when I walk, my antenatal means before birth. So even before I was born, or the people of my community were born, you considered us inhuman. All our actions were considered inhuman, strange by the white man. And omnivorous understanding. Omnivorous means consuming everything, both plants as well as animals. So here the meaning is that the white people, they have a feeling, or they consider that their point of view is the correct one, that they have an understanding of everything, their thoughts, uh, their knowledge, that is complete. So the poet here refers to that Eurocentric approach, that Eurocentric thought. Everything concerning the European is superior and the rest is all inferior. So you have always laughed at me even before my birth. Even before I was born, you were considering me as inhuman. You feel like you have a complete understanding about everything, that my knowledge, my talents, everything is just trash. And you have always laughed and laughed and laughed. You laughed at my song, you laughed at my walk. So, whatever I do, you subject subject to ridicule. Then I danced my magic dance to the rhythm of talking drums pleading, but you shut your eyes and laughed and laughed and laughed. And then when I danced my magic dance, that refers to their cultural dance or some rituals that they used to perform. Every culture has rituals, arts, everything pertaining to their own culture. Even we have something. But when somebody who does not belong to our culture, when they happen to see this, they find it awkward. Okay. Here also, when the African does his rituals or performs that cultural dance, the white man considers it as an awkward process. So when he danced his magic dance to the rhythm of talking drums pleading, that refers to the drum beat. It can be as a prayer to their gods. They are pleading before their gods. But you shut your eyes and laughed and laughed and laughed. You were never ready or trying to understand our culture or from our point of view. You always told us that we are doing something stupid. We are doing something meaningless. And then I opened my mystic inside, wide like the sky. Instead, you entered your car and laughed and laughed and laughed. Then, whenever I tried to open up myself, I tried to share my thoughts with you. You just left. You just entered your car. You just ignored me. And then again, you laughed and laughed and laughed. You never tried to understand me and my culture and my people. You laughed at my dance, you laughed at my inside, you laughed and laughed and laughed. So again and again, here. is sharing the humiliation that he has felt about the white man. The white man has always laughed at, always ignored, always satirized, ridiculed his creative abilities, his thoughts, everything. But your laughter was ice block laughter, and it froze your inside, froze your voice, froze your ears, froze your eyes, and froze your tongue. Your laughter was ice block laughter that refers to that emotionless attitude. The white man has failed to understand. It has froze his inside. The attitude that he has for others that has killed the compassion towards other people. It has frozen his ears. That means it has frozen his sense of understanding. He fails to understand other people. And it froze your eyes and froze your tongue. Your perceptions, your outlook, your feeling of your what to say, your sense of expression, everything is lost. So this attitude of the white man, it has changed him to an emotionless, heartless, uncompassionate individual. In fact, the white man considers the black man as inhuman. So now the poet is telling the white man, it is not me who is inhuman, but you, because you have failed to use your qualities as a human being. As social beings, we have to interact with each other, we have to help each other, we have to be compassionate to each other, but you have failed to express all those qualities. You carry a frozen heart, frozen ears, frozen eyes, frozen tongue. All your senses have become frozen, and that is a very powerful image that Okara is conveying. Next. And now it's my turn to laugh, and my laughter is not ice block laughter. For I know not cars, know not ice blocks. And now things have changed. The world has changed. We are no longer the colonized, the inferior. And now it's my turn to laugh. But I am not like you. My laughter is not frozen or ice block laughter like yours. I am not a frozen being, an emotionless, heartless person like you. For I know not cars, know not ice blocks, because my culture is different from yours. It is not in my tradition to ignore everybody around me, and it is not in my culture to behave in an inhuman way. I respond to the calls around me. My laughter is the fire of the eye of the sky, the fire of the earth, the fire of the air, the fire of the seas and the rivers, fishes, animals, trees, and it thawed your inside, thawed your voice, thawed your ears, thawed your eyes, and thawed your tongue. So my laughter is like the fire of the eye of the sky. The fire of the eye of the sky refers to the sun. It is the sun which vibrates its energy to all the uh, living beings on earth. Like that, I will radiate my happiness to everybody around me. I will touch upon the lives of everybody that comes to me. I can feel the nature, every element of nature. I feel every aspect of nature. I enjoy life in its fullest. I'm not a closed being like the white man. I have an open heart. I enjoy the rivers, the fishes, the animals, the trees. I always look around with gratitude, with compassion, with a feeling of equality. And when I look around and see all the aspects of nature, it thaws. my inside. Thaws means melt, soften something. That is called thaw. So it thaws my inside. It melts my heart. It melts my voice. I don't have a harsh voice, a dominating voice like the white man. I don't try to control. I lend my ears to everybody. I see the pain of others and I talk for, I use my tongue. I express my thoughts, feelings. I talk for others. So that is my culture. Okay. So a meek wonder held your shadow, and you whispered, "Why so?" And I answered, "Because my fathers and I are owned by the living warmth of the earth through our naked feet." And the white man wonders at this attitude of the black man, despite trampling him, despite humiliating him, tormenting and torturing him mentally as well as physically. He wonders, why so? How could you? How can you remain so calm and composed like this? He's asking. And then the black man replies, uh, because my fathers and I are owned by the living warmth of the earth through our naked feet. Because we have a close communication with nature, and when it comes to nature, there is no difference between black and white. The the night as well as the day both has its own beauty. One cannot replace other. We cannot have an all day and an all night, right? So we absorb the value of nature, and nature is the greatest equalizer. There is no sort of discrimination in nature. Everything is beautiful and everything is for all. So it is that essence, it is that attitude, it is that warmth of Mother Earth that we carry in our mind, in our complete being. So that is why I am not like you. That is why I cannot be like you. Fine. So this is the poem "You Laughed and Laughed and Laughed" by Gabriel Okara. And so when the poem ends, we find that it is the African who is laughing back at the European. He is deflating the arrogance and exposing the moral, spiritual, and aesthetic blankness of the white man. Okay, thank you.